I'm Linda Ward. Our top story tonight, 2 men have been shot dead in broad daylight downtown.
What I can say is that they are related, all 3 of them.
A woman and 2 police officers were also injured. We'll have the latest from the scene near Dundas and Parliament. Also,
it's upsetting. I've lived here for 50 years.
A townhouse fire in Mississauga has killed a man and a woman and injured 1 other. 2 residents narrowly escaped the flames. And
I love it. I love it. It's great. I got lots of security and people that care.
New community of modular cabins in Peterborough showing early success, getting unhoused people off the streets and garnering attention across the country as one solution to homelessness. Good evening. 1 person is in life-threatening condition after a 2-alarm fire at a high-rise building near Yonge and Finch. The fire broke out in a unit on the 10th floor just after 7 tonight.
As always, when our crews arrived, their first priority is always search and rescue. They were able to quickly locate the suite involved in fire, made entry into that fire for the purposes of search and rescue. Unfortunately, in the course of those search and rescue operations, they located 1 occupant inside the suite, very quickly rescued that occupant, brought them outside.
The man was taken to hospital and crews were able to quickly contain the fire. And the building was evacuated, but people have since been allowed to return to their homes. It's not immediately clear what caused the fire. And now to that shooting in Regent Park. 2 men are dead and a woman injured in brazen gunfire this afternoon. Toronto police say 1 man has been arrested and that all 4 people are related. Dale Manuktuk joins us live now from the scene. Dale, what do we know?
Linda, this is still a very large crime scene that police are holding. Dundas Street is shut down from Sackville to Parliament. They're also investigating along Arnold Avenue, which runs just south of Dundas Street. I can tell you that this community has been rocked by what's unfolded here today. Even before police confirmed that the suspect and 3 victims were related, many people were looking on and talking about this family at the center of it all. And to add to the shock, this is the first death due to gun violence that's happened in Regent Park in roughly 2 years. Police first arrived at a home on Arnold Avenue around 1:30 this afternoon after receiving multiple calls about gunfire. Officers found 2 men and 1 woman who had been shot.
One of the males was pronounced deceased at the scene. Another male was transported via emergency run to the hospital, and a female was also transported to hospital via emergency run. The man died in hospital. Police say the woman wasn't seriously injured and will soon be released. The crime scene stretched beyond the home. First responders found the man's body some 200 meters away on Dundas Street. Certainly there are bullets flying everywhere, so the fact that we didn't have anyone else hit, I think, is a bit of a miracle. Police were able to locate a suspect and chase him on foot. He was arrested on Sackville Street. 2 of our officers were injured. 1 injured their arm and the other one injured their legs. One's been released from hospital, thankfully, and the other one remains in hospital being treated. Police did recover a gun and say the man arrested is related to all 3 victims. Residents in the area say they're all part of the same family.
We used to deliver meals through Ramadan, during Ramadan, for folks living in our community who are facing food insecurity. So I believe this family also was a recipient of those meals.
2 of my staff are from Regent Park, and so they know the community well.
Local councillor Chris Moyes noted the community had just recently celebrated 2 years without a fatal shooting.
This community has gone through so much trauma over the last many years since Regent Park has been here, and I thought, we were beyond this, and, we were in a good place going forward. And for this to, again, be so fresh and to happen today, it's really sad to hear.
Linda, I've spoken to several residents who weren't comfortable going on camera. Some knew this family personally and say they've watched them grow up in this community. They describe the family as a hardworking one that would send money to the Congo. Now, police aren't looking for any other suspects. No charges have been laid at this time. They are still looking to speak to anyone with information about what perhaps led to this 1 man shooting and allegedly killing his 2 relatives. Linda?
Difficult story. Thanks, Dale. That's Dale Manukduk reporting from Regent Park for us tonight. 2 people have died after an early morning fire in Mississauga. It happened at a townhouse complex on Bromsgrove Road, just east of Winston Churchill. Greg Ross has the latest.
It's definitely heartbreaking.
Residents of this townhouse complex got an unexpected wake-up call at around 3 o'clock this morning.
Looked out the windows, saw the fire trucks, put 2 and 2 together.
This man says his worst fears were realized after learning 2 of his longtime neighbors were killed in the fire.
It's upsetting. I've lived here for 50 years.
Neighbors tell us the homeowner was an elderly woman who lived in the home with some of her adult children.
She was a sweet lady. That's about all I really want to say right now. I'm sorry.
Fire crews say there were a total of 4 people in the house at the time of the fire.
Our firefighters reported that 2 people had self-rescued from the home, so they had evacuated themselves and were on the front lawn. 1 has significant burns to their body.
According to Mississauga Fire, that person is in hospital with life-threatening injuries. It's still not clear how the fire started, but the Ontario Fire Marshal believes they know where it started, in a main floor living room.
There's a fair bit of damage on the main floor, but other than that, it's just mostly smoke spread.
There were early reports that the fire may have been suspicious, but at this point, no evidence has been found to support that.
We won't know until we're completely done, but right now, there's nothing telling me that this is a suspicious fire.
Questions have already begun to surface about whether or not smoke alarms in the home were functioning.
As of yet, we have not found any evidence of any working smoke alarms.
Peel police tell us that person who was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries has been upgraded to critical but stable condition. We were also told that the family had 2 pets who were inside the home at the time of the fire. Fire crews were able to rescue a cat, but we're told a dog died in the fire. The Ontario Fire Marshal says they hope to wrap up this investigation tomorrow. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
Cottage country has been hit by a cyber attack. Huntsville's municipal offices were closed for a second day today. Some council meetings are being rescheduled as the attack is investigated. It was discovered over the weekend, and so far there's no evidence of any sensitive data being compromised. Officials say some of the municipality's online services have been affected. The cyber attack comes on the heels of an incident in Hamilton. Officials in that city are continuing their efforts to restore online systems after a hack on February 25th. And workers from 11 LCBO stores across Ontario have taken to the picket lines, demanding a stop to the privatization of the provincial liquor store.
We're not going to stand by and allow Doug Ford to privatize the LCBO piece by piece by taking cases out of our warehouses and handing them over to third-party warehouses, privatizing our e-commerce. We're not going to stand by and allow this to happen.
The LCBO generates $2.5 billion in revenue that goes to public services like healthcare and education. Doug Ford announced in December that his government will open the floodgates for big box grocers, gas stations, and convenience stores to sell beer, wine, cider, and ready-to-drink cocktails. The union representing the workers say they want to keep the revenue invested in public services instead of handing it over to grocery store CEOs. Around 7,000 signatures have been collected in a petition.
For Doug Ford, I got one thing to say, that when you come after...
Here's a live look at our city tonight, sitting at 7 degrees with a few clouds. Victor Paulo joins us now with a first look at the forecast. Victor.
Well, Linda, let me tell you all about it. Another beautiful March break here in the GTA, and that sun is going to continue for the majority of the week. Double-digit highs mixed in with some single-digit lows, and I'm a big fan of cool nights and warm days. Now, taking a look at what we're expecting by the time we start our morning tomorrow, it's going to be around 5 degrees across the GTA. Now, seeing what's going to be happening on our Wednesday, well, it's going to be clear skies, which means we get to really see and feel that sun, which I'm a huge fan of. Now, here's what we could be expecting when we're taking a look at our 3-day forecast. Well, Wednesday's going to be a day, it's going to be a high of 17 degrees, and it's going to be a low of 3. Continuation of those double digits all the way through to your Thursday, where it's going to be a high of 12, but we're going to be seeing an increase of cloud cover similar to what you see behind me by the time we reach Thursday, because once we hit Friday, we're going to be expecting a touch of precipitation.
Across the province, cities are trying to come up with solutions to get people out of encampments. In Peterborough, they're using cabins for temporary housing, 50 of them all together as part of a modular bridge housing project. Loretta Redekop visited the site.
They look like shipping containers, but they're actually mini homes on what used to be a parking lot. Everyone living here had been homeless. It's a life one woman wanted to escape.
It was scary at night.
We agreed not to identify her as she worries about stigma. Here's how she describes life before living in an encampment.
A lot of fighting, a lot of weapons, and a lot of drugs. Just terrible, 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 terrible. Not enough food. I don't know how many laptops I had stolen and phones I had stolen, cigarettes, food, you name it, everything would go. It was getting really cold at the end. I'd wake up crying because I'd be so cold when I woke up.
She says she never imagined she'd end up homeless. She'd already struggled with a fentanyl addiction. Then her husband died a couple years ago, and she couldn't afford the rent. As for how she feels living here,
I love it. I love it. It's great. I got lots of security, you know, and people that care.
Each tiny metal cabin has a door that locks, heating for the winter, AC in summer. They're not free. People pay rent geared to income. The woman I spoke to pays $566 a month. I got a look inside one of the units during a recent media tour.
It's pretty tight quarters in here. There's the bed, and then there is a small size fridge here. Above that, there's a small window. There aren't any cooking facilities inside the unit, but you can see that the resident does have some food. And then we've got the door. It has a window. That's the only other window inside this unit.
There have been some challenges. 6 people have been kicked out. 5 of them for violence.
So this is just our second row here, as you'll see.
There's a strict no violence policy. Drug use is allowed.
We do have some people that will come to us if they're going to use because they want to use safely and ask us to come and check on them. So we definitely appreciate that. You know, we want to keep people safe.
There's security to get in and out. Among the rules, no overnight visitors, and everyone has to agree to a care plan.
To be willing to participate in this model, it's very hard. You know, we have a lot of regulations, a lot of rules around our occupancy agreements because we have to keep everybody on site safe, and they've adapted and thrived, and I'm just really proud of all of them.
It cost $2.5 million to build the community. Operating costs are expected to be another $2 million a year. The mayor is fully behind it.
It's worth every dollar of it. These are our human lives. And one of the things that we fundamentally believe in Peterborough is by making this new investment, we're going to put individuals on a new trajectory in life.
As for the resident I met, she says she's drastically reduced her drug use and is working to stop altogether. All about building a relationship with her 5 kids and 1 grandchild.
I want to be closer to them, so I have to get rid of the drug problem to be closer to them, or I just want to be in a room getting high instead of being with them.
Hers is one of many stories here. The mayor says they're getting calls from cities across the province and also other parts of Canada. But at this point, there's only funding for 2 years.
I'm very hopeful that both the Government of Ontario and the Government of Canada recognize what we're doing right here in Peterborough. This could be a prototype, and we'll be looking at some more additional resources that could be employed.
Peterborough's mayor has dreams of getting more agencies involved to be able to offer education and job training. It's just one of many municipalities grappling with what to do about homelessness and encampments. Here in Toronto, council has directed city staff to look at the options using city property to build modular homes or micro shelters. That report is due at the end of April. Loretta Redekop.
Welcome back. Haiti's unelected and exiled Prime Minister Ariel Henry has agreed to resign. The move comes as the country's overwhelmed by violent gangs and amid mounting international pressure.
Comme toujours dit, pas aucun sacrifice qui est trop grand pour pays noir Haïti.
Henri made the announcement after meetings in Jamaica with regional leaders and the U.S. Secretary of State to discuss the country's spiraling crisis. He says his government will step down once a transitional council is established. Henri has been unable to enter Haiti after violence forced the closure of the country's main airport. CARICOM, the political alliance of 15 Caribbean countries, including Haiti, welcomed his resignation. And here in this city, the Haitian community fears the worst for their families back home. Many are mobilizing to try to raise money to send to their loved ones. Talia Ricci has more.
Ricardo Province is setting up for a private event at his restaurant Boucan on the Danforth. But much of the time, he says his heart and his mind is back in Haiti.
No one can leave their home, and because everywhere in Haiti has been, I would say that the whole population back home now is pretty much an open type of prison. There's no water available now. There's no medicine available now. The kids are dying. The people are dying.
That's due to surging unrest and violence by criminal gangs that have overrun much of Haiti's capital and closed down its main international airports. Province has brothers, sisters, and many other loved ones in the country.
I keep on doing what we do best at the restaurant, just to raise awareness around what's happening back at home.
That's what Haitians of Toronto is doing too. The nonprofit serves as a hub to bring the local community together. They're working on ways to fundraise and send aid to the country while also keeping close contact with their own families.
We can get up every day, go to the grocery store, go to school, go to work. But for them, it's basically life or death. You can step outside and die.
The kids are hearing all the gunshots that are going on right now, and they don't have food. And my mom is going through a hard time because she can't send them food. She can't send them anything. So it's a lot happening as a family that we are trying to help.
Despite efforts to help, there's also a feeling of helplessness. Money doesn't go far because it's too dangerous for many to even leave their homes. This man is worried about his loved ones too, including his kids.
I have all kind of feelings going on right now because that is the first time my country has reached to that point where you cannot move. There's nowhere safe. People in their own home, they get shot.
Back at Boucan, Province says every day he just hopes he'll continue to get messages back from his family and to see the people in Haiti live in peace.
To see everybody to be able to be secure, to be able to have a hospital, to be able to have water.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government announced new funding today to help address the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the justice system. The money will fund new programs at Toronto's Aboriginal Legal Services. Tyler Cheese explains.
The justice system has impacts on Indigenous people in terms of when they are confronted as accused individuals, but also when they seek services as victims of crime.
Canada's Attorney General was in Toronto today to address inequities in the justice system.
Our criminal justice system has not been up to the task, and we're working to improve that.
According to Public Safety Canada, Indigenous peoples make up 32% of all individuals in custody, but only account for about 5% of the adult population. And Indigenous women account for 50% of all federally incarcerated women. That's why the government has pledged $2.1 million to help address the issue here in Toronto.
Reconciliation means facing difficult truths, and it's about doing better as we come to know better. And it means making decisions, taking action, and building momentum.
The money will fund new programs overseen by Aboriginal Legal Services, focusing on the rehabilitation of Indigenous offenders.
We're able to get them to have access to sweat lodge ceremonies. We're able to take them on the land for fasting camps, land-based teachings. And it's really part of that restoring their identity that will help empower them to make good choices in the future.
The funding will also help expand the service's ability to write GLADU reports, written documents that include an Indigenous individual's background information and culturally appropriate recommendations before they're sentenced in court. The organization also offers Gladue aftercare by Indigenous community members after sentencing.
Us too, we've been impacted by colonization. We too have been impacted by the intergenerational impacts, but we also know how to heal from it and how to break those cycles.
Finally, the service will also conduct a needs assessment for the Toronto courthouse, which includes the centralization of Gladue courts.
I've actually been to the Gladue court, and it's actually a beautiful space.
She says it will also be a priority to ensure that people from outside the downtown core will have access to the court. Tyler Cheese, CBC.
Well, it's time now for a look at your extended forecast with Victor Paulo. Victor, how's it looking?
Let me tell you all about what's happening when it comes to our daytime highs over the next couple of days. We're going to see a trend happening, and right now we can see that we're at the peak of how warm it's going to get for this week by the time we reach Wednesday, closer to 20 degrees in Toronto, near 21 in Windsor. But as we do get closer towards your Saturday, we'll notice that Friday we're going to be taking a dip down to single digits with a high of around 7, and Saturday's going to dip down to a high closer to 8 degrees. And we're also expecting a bit of flurries which will be coming our way, and this is all because of this polar air mass we can see right here that's working its way down, and a lot of areas across Canada as well, as you can see here in Saskatoon, feeling like -2, of course much colder than they've had earlier this week. But hey, let's take a look at that wind and what it's going to be bringing us. Now, that wind right now is coming in from the south, and those south winds will be a big contributing factor to that 20-degree near high we'll be experiencing on Wednesday. But as we get into the week, closer to Thursday, you're going to see a shift in the wind. And that shift in the wind will be a big contributing factor in the shift in your daytime highs. Well, we're expecting daytime highs on Wednesday, as we spoke about, which are closer to around 20 degrees. And that's because a lot of that wind was coming in from the south. But it'll eventually shift to the north, and those north winds, as they blow down towards us here in the GTA, well, it's going to end up cooling things down. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in the Golden Horseshoe over the next couple of hours. As we start our day over Wednesday, later on and towards the overnight, well, look at this. Not a lot of cloud cover, and that's what we did see earlier. It's going to be pretty clear skies as we're taking a look at our 3- and 5-day forecast. It's going to be clear sky Wednesday, high of 17, low of 3, and Thursday we're going to see that increase of cloud cover, which will lead into the precipitation on Friday. And Sunday, we're expecting a bit of flurries to happen to pass by, but the good news between Friday and Sunday, it's not going to be that much because the surfaces will be warm enough that nothing is going to stick. Hope you all have yourselves a great night, and hope your March breaks are going well.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.